Hello everyone and welcome back to another session of Elden Ring PvP and another weapon showcase. Today we're taking a look at the Warhawk's Talon. This is a weapon that you get from the sword-footed birds. I know that's not their real name, but let's be honest, it's what we all call them. Although there are a few other choice names I've heard people call them as well. That said, you do have to farm for this weapon, so have fun and good luck. Getting started with basics. The weapon requires 10 strength and 16 dexterity, and it weighs 3 units. It has spinning slash on by default, and at plus 25 on the keen upgrade path, it has a physical base damage of 211, an E scaling in strength, and an A scaling in dexterity. This weapon is really fun to use. I like it a lot, and I've been looking forward to using it for quite a while. I thoroughly enjoyed it while recording this video and while doing the focused PvP video on it, and this is a weapon that I would recommend very highly. It's a lot of fun to use, and that comes down to the moveset more so than anything else. The biggest pro of the weapon is, in my opinion, the moveset. There's a lot of good going on with it, and the big thing with it that is special is that the R2s are unique. It is a double slash, and it causes you to sort of launch yourself forward as you're doing the attack. And that's really nice because it's good at closing distance, it does a good amount of damage, especially when both of the attacks hit, and it's great for mix-ups as well. And then on top of that, even still, the R2 is actually extremely good at roll catching because in order to properly get away from it, your opponent will have to double roll away from you if they're right on top of you when you go for your attack. More often than not, people don't do that, and they get hit with one of the attacks. So that's a really nice thing about this weapon's moveset. Aside from that, though, there are other pros to the weapon. They are all standard straight sword pros, but they are worth keeping in mind. First off, of course, with straight swords, you all know by now that the power stance moveset is quite good and quite dangerous. It gives you more attack options, and with having a unique R2 thrown into the mix of that, it just makes it even more dangerous than it would have been without it. So keep that in mind, and have fun with it. Aside from that, the moveset overall is pretty quick. Ignoring the R2 attack, you do have a crouch poke or a rolling poke with your rolling R1, and that's nice. Your running R2 when two-handed is a horizontal slash, so that's good as well. And overall, it's just a really nice moveset with a lot of good attacks in it. There's a lot of variety in it, and you can do a lot of nice mix-ups. The weapon really excels when it's being used in an aggressive way. So I had a very good time with this weapon. As you all know, I play unnecessarily aggressively in this game, which gets me into trouble in a lot of cases. But when you have a weapon that excels with that type of playstyle, like this one, it really works well. So it is what it is. As far as the skill is concerned, I personally like using square off on it. I was talking about mix-ups and the variety in the moveset, and that just adds more variety to it even still. So I think that's a good skill to have. Between the upward slash with the square off R1 and the running thrust with the square off R2, there's just a lot of good with this moveset, and adding square off to it just makes it so much better. There are so many mix-ups, and it really keeps your opponent on their toes and keeps them on the defensive. So long as you keep the pressure on them, you can keep mixing up your attacks and just go to town. And it's great. It's a lot of fun to use. And if you do have an aggressive playstyle, I'd highly recommend trying it out. It's very worthwhile. Now, as far as the cons of the weapon, truth be told, I don't feel like there are really all that many problems with this weapon. I think it's just a very well balanced weapon. The reach could be a little longer, the damage could be a tad higher, but as far as those are concerned, it's about on par with the weapons that are in its class. So at the end of the day, it's actually a very well balanced weapon for the straight sword class. I think that's a good thing. And I would honestly say that's almost a pro how it's still well balanced. Because when you get a unique move in a moveset, sometimes you'll actually have to take a bit of a drop in damage. Or the move isn't a very useful move, and that's how it's balanced. In this case, the weapon isn't the longest straight sword, but it's not the shortest. It's not the most damaging, but it's by far from the weakest. and it's got a unique attack that's actually a very valuable attack. So overall, the fact that it's well balanced is a good thing. It's not overtuned, and that's nice. So that is what it is. As far as a actual gripe I do have with the weapon, I do feel like the R2 should have a bit more hyper armor. That would make it even more powerful, and I feel like that would be really beneficial to the weapon, and that's really my one issue I take with it. You'll go to initiate the attack, and you might get the first swing off, but you'll get stunned out of doing the second. I feel like if you had a bit more hyper armor on it and didn't get stunned out of the second attack so easily, that would be really nice for this weapon and would be beneficial. But you don't, so it is what it is. That said, if you put on Endure, maybe that would be a good way to get around that. That said, if you did use Endure, a lot of people know what it is by this point, so they will actively avoid you until the effect wears off. So keep that in mind. It might not be a valid option, but it might be worth trying. You never know. So that all said, I had a really good time with this weapon. It does work extremely well, like I've said, with an aggressive playstyle. If you are playing more defensively with it, it will work fine as well. We've all seen people play defensively with a number of weapons, so at the end of the day, it's a perfectly valid playstyle and will work with this just fine. But I do feel as though this one really does shine when you take an aggressive stance with it. So, all in all, a fun weapon, one I'd recommend, one I had a great time with, and one I'll definitely be using when I'm just PvPing for the sake of it and not recording videos. So, yeah, it's one I'm adding to my regular use rotation, so to speak. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. There is another fight left after this guy, which I have to say, I really appreciate this guy for not poke spamming with a great sword and showing how it can be used outside of that one single attack. So props to him, and much appreciated. We'll see more of that when I get to my showcase on it eventually. But anyway, thank you all for stopping by. I hope you've all enjoyed the video, found it helpful in one way or another. If you have, then please do all the YouTube things, like, leave a comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you all next time.